Until you make the unconscious conscious, it controls your life and you call it fate. I love Alex Hormozi. Like he says, use what you've got. First rule of entrepreneurship, if you've got the fuck you fuel of my dad and my mum weren't there for me and I'm going to use that to get started, use it.
You've already helped thousands of people break free from self-sabotage. To understand that, what does that mean?
My method, I break into 3 pillars. First pillar, the work that I do, it's around healing and consciousness, raising people's awareness so they're aware of what we're talking about, and then give them the practical tools to actually integrate and do the work.
When you have that extreme clarity and that purpose, and you're lit from within, the work is no longer work.
When what you do is the greatest expression of who you are, you do your life's best work. Someone said, Michelangelo, how did you make such a great statue? And he said, it was easy. David was always in the statue. I just removed everything that wasn't him.
Someone that I guess is now recognizing, well, look, I'm out of alignment. If there was a step 1, step 2, step 3, what would that look like?
Step 1 is...
Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Formula podcast. Today's guest is Lewis Hugstep, a purpose and transformation coach who's helped tens of thousands of people break free from self-sabotage and achieve a life of success and purpose. After building a 7-figure business in his early 20s, Lewis pivoted to coaching, founding Hugstep Coaching and creating the Inspired Life Method. He's now on a mission to impact 10 million people globally. That's 10 million people, guiding them to live inspiring lives, both inside and out. But Lewis's journey wasn't always this clear. He once burned out running multiple gyms, caught up in obviously all the external success while neglecting his inner well-being. And that's what led him to explore the science of spirituality and transformation, blending neuroscience with value psychology. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to break free from self-sabotage, how to heal from inner wounds, and design a life full of purpose and fulfillment. Now, before we dive in, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss these weekly conversations with real freedom fighters building wealth and freedom just like Lewis. And you can learn how to do it too on your terms. All right, let's dive in. Lewis, welcome to the show.
Mate, quite an intro. I appreciate that, mate. So, look forward to connecting. And from what I know about you and your mission, we sound super aligned. So I think this will be a good flowing back and forth conversation.
Yeah, man, it's the law of proximity, right? I guess one of the reasons we were just talking off camera before about, sort of what the mission, the mission and the vision is of the Freedom Formula, what it's about. And for me, it's also about expanding my own world and attracting, people that, I want to connect with. Because, here's the reality. When you want to be a winner, you hang around winners. And, we are by, I suppose in a large way, a reflection of not only, who we associate with, but what we consume and what we listen to. So today we're going to dive into the source, right? And I'm really curious because this subject actually is one that I'm extremely passionate about. And I truly believe that so many of the listeners are going to get a lot out of. And in fact, maybe a pivotal conversation that they look back to in many years going, that fucking conversation. What Lewis said that changed my life. And that very well could be, a pivotal moment for a lot of these guys. So I guess, to give, I guess a little bit of an intro, and I'd like to get a little bit of a backstory first, ideally. But you've already helped thousands of people break free from self-sabotage and heal their inner wounds, right? And to understand that, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Good question. I guess my method, I break into 3 pillars. First pillar is self-mastery. And for me, I put that down to purpose, values, soul's values. A lot of people have a misperception on what I deem as soul's values. People think values are things like success, loyalty, integrity, freedom, control, things like that. For me, those are not values. Values are areas of life that intrinsically fulfill someone. So things like family, business, learning, traveling, money, self-development, teaching, coaching, things you express. And low self-worth is feedback you're not living to your values. And then we use your values and your purpose to create a mission and vision. So values and purpose aren't very measurable. They're intangible. They put a tear of inspiration in your eyes. They fill your heart full of love and inspiration and gratitude and energy. And then we turn that into a mission and vision, which is a more practical, here's a goal, here's the mission, here's the BHAG we're aiming for. That's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is the inner work. I kind of do the pillar 2 and 3 in different orders depending who I'm talking to. But I like to normally do pillar 2, which is inner work. That for me is transformation. Beliefs, perceptions, and blocks. So beliefs are beliefs, limiting beliefs. I'm not enough. I'm too much. No one loves me. The world's against me. La, 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 la. And then trauma for me is a perception. That's a big rabbit hole. We can talk about that in detail if you want. But it's a moment of overwhelm or underwhelm. where you create a perception that something's bad, and then you run away from them, you run into them, you get triggered by them, and it creates all these sabotaging patterns that keep you stuck. And then emotional blocks is very Joe Dispenza, for anyone that's done any of his work.
Yeah.
He says thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body. So beliefs and perceptions are very mental, head stuff, and then the emotions is the body part. So a lot of people hear of top-down and bottom-up approach when it comes to transformation. I like to do both. I don't like to just be segmented into one. I like to do both of them. And then third pillar is something you seem to be very, very good at, is the skills and strategies. It's how do we actually take your purpose, your mission, your vision, your values, and then turn that into an actionable plan. What's the vehicle? So there's 4 vehicles for me for someone to earn income in this world. Number 1 is work a job that you hate and never change. I highly recommend don't do that one. That's where most people start.
I highly recommend you don't do that one. Yeah,
that's the one I don't recommend. But my first job was McDonald's. Was I super inspired to be there? Absolutely not. But it was my
first job was Coles.
Oh, love it, mate. Number 2 is to build a career that's aligned with your values and purpose. I used to be that asshole who thought like, if you don't quit your job and build a business, you're not committed. I've dialed down a little bit. I'm not like that anymore, but I used to think that. But now that I've evolved a little bit as a human and matured a bit, you can certainly have a very fulfilling career. And sometimes, as you know, being in business, when the stress is on, the pressure's on, the risk, especially early days, it's like, fuck, I might go get a job. Might be easier. Won't have to stay up to 1 a.m. hustling and all those things. So that's part 2.
It's not for everyone,
part 3,
is it?
What's that, sorry?
It's not for everyone, is it?
Not for everyone. And then part 3 is to build a business which is purely a vehicle, and it's to make money. It's to give you income, to have freedom, to do what you want. And that, like for me, I did gyms, I did network marketing. Were they purpose-led businesses, which is what path 4 is? No, it wasn't. It was just a vehicle to make money, to add value to the world, and to get paid for it, to give me freedom to do what I want to do. And then path 4, I just alluded to it, is a purpose-led business. That's my favorite one because I love this quote. It puts it really well together. When what you do is the greatest expression of who you are, you do your life's best work. So essentially, you know your purpose. Your purpose is an expression of your greatest core wound. Then how do you give that back to the world, and how do you get paid to do it? That's like my favorite sweet spot of people I like to work with. But don't get me wrong, I've got people who are accountants who aren't super passionate about their job, but they do it to pay the bills, to look after their family. I still have people in those worlds as well. But that's essentially the 4 pathways. And then as you pursue that, your shit comes up, your beliefs come up, your traumas come up, your wounds come up, and that's the glass ceilings that we hit. So we want to overcome those whilst also taking action, because I take the piss out of clients at I run events now, and I normally start it like this. I say, there's a spectrum of humans, and on one side of the spectrum, we've got spiritual humans. These people have crystals on their wrists. They're doing plant medicines. They're doing ayahuascas. They're breathing. They're levitating all day. And these people are often very fulfilled and happy, but broke. They can't pay their bills. And then you've got the other side of the spectrum, which is me, which are the overachievers. These people achieve. They hustle, they grind, they just put in the work, they sacrifice everything to achieve. These people, more often than not, will achieve externally, but they're unhappy internally. And that's where I like having both. I like to blend these worlds together. How can we actually be fulfilled? Because nothing matters externally. We're going to all die anyways. In 1,000 years, no one's going to remember who we are. So how do we embody that and be happy and present and fulfilled whilst also achieving things that are exciting to us and fun to do? Because you can't pay your landlord with gratitude. So it's like blending those two worlds. That's kind of, I see myself.
You can try, but it's not going to work. Yeah.
You can manifest all you want, but my landlord wants money. So that's kind of my work in a nutshell. I like to help people come home, back home to who they are, find their purpose, values, mission, vision, get clear on how they're going to create it strategically, practically, with a plan, with a vehicle, with skills and strategies, but then also work on the internal stuff that would stop them from achieving it or following through with it, so you can have a purposeful, successful life. That's me in a nutshell.
So let's just kind of circle back, and I want to make sure that everyone listening captures the 4 pillars, because there's an extreme amount of value you just shared there. So let's just break down the 4 pillars again. So you said purpose being, there was 3. So there's purpose.
So pillar 1 is purpose, values, mission, and vision. I'll put those 3. So 3 pieces per.
Right. So purpose, values, and mission.
Yep.
Right. And so when I guess, give us an example. You know, I suppose where your personal story started many years ago. You talk about being burnt out. So what was happening? And then how did you overcome that situation using this I suppose framework that you've now successfully used to help so many people? Like, share a story where you were experiencing, I guess the worst, that lack of fulfillment, where you were achieving externally, but something was going on internally.
Yeah, for sure.
How you went through that.
Yeah, beautiful question as well. So I got into the gym industry. So I started in personal training. So I've started in the fitness industry. My vision was to be a personal trainer and a teacher. That was like the grand goals back then. And
so you love helping people. It seems to be one of your core values is serving. I mean, you don't become a teacher or a personal trainer unless you love helping people.
Yep. And my highest value is coaching. So I categorize it as coaching, but you can see definitely. So you can see the coaching aspect to fitness and personal training and teaching. So yes, so that you're right. So my value was underneath that. I just wasn't conscious of it. So the story I'll share, the underlying theme is I just wasn't aware of it, because you can't be held accountable to something you're not aware of. And we just don't get taught this stuff, especially at school. Like, I can rant on about the education system. It's the compare fish on their ability to climb trees. Like, I was not fulfilled by the sort of traditional path of go to uni, get a job, blah, blah, blah. Besides, teaching was the only path I could kind of see that made sense for me. But with that being said, I was a teacher aide. I went and tried it, and I did not care about teaching Romeo and Juliet or Pythagoras. I care about teaching the stuff that we're talking about right now: purpose, trauma, limitations, perceptions, all that stuff. So yeah, side tangent there, but I got into the fitness world, and it was a big rabbit hole. I didn't know what I was getting into at the time, but it was actually a network marketing gig that I ended up getting into. I didn't understand it at the time. I was in high school, year 12, PBC on the Gold Coast, and I went down to become a personal trainer because I wanted to start the PT journey and then get into uni. I repeated year 12 to become a teacher. So I wanted to start the PT sort of path along. Long story short, that led to me working for free for 2.5 years as a personal trainer, running the gym, but I was building my network marketing business out of the gym. So it was kind of like the model, like you bring people down for a workout, but then you get them onto the supplements, onto the Herbalife was the company, and then you build your team underneath it. So that was kind of the strategy back then. And then eventually that I did really well. I was making six figures through network marketing. I hit one of the top tier things. They flew me around the country to speak on stages for it. But eventually the Herbalife network marketing fizzled out because it was very hard to scale a gym franchise with network marketing, because you'd have to find culture fit, good team members, trainers who are like a fit with the business, and you had to force them to do Herbalife. It was very hard, very, very hard to do. And Herbalife in general,
lots of moving parts.
Yeah, very, very challenging. Essentially, the short version of this, the network marketing fizzled out. It then kind of turned into owning gyms. I owned my first one when I was 20. I opened my second when I was 21. Opened my third when I was 22. But I was very like the unconscious unconscious optimist. So I was just like, let's go. Let's have a big graph. I forget the graph's name, but uninformed optimist. That was it. So I was just like, let's have fun. Let's go. This will be sick. And then it led me to having 3 gyms. And I was just like, yeah, let's go. I'll just work every weekend. I don't sleep when you're dead was kind of my catchphrase, I'd say. Like, when do you rest? Never. I rest with gratitude or hustle, whatever. And I built these gyms, but it was just a business on sand. Like, I was literally waking up at 3:34 to take classes at one gym. Then I'll do all the marketing management shit during the day. Then I'll drive to another gym and run the classes there at night, pack it up, set it up, go back home, sleep for 4 or 5 hours, wake up, do it again for 7 days. Just repeat. And mate, but I was again just like, I need more, need achieve. And this is very unconscious.
What drove that?
What drove me back then was insecurities. It's the inspiration. Sorry, it goes from desperation, ideally, into inspiration. But for me, it was very much around dad. I wasn't enough for dad. So I wasn't worthy. I wasn't enough. I learnt, I'm sure you're familiar with Tony Robbins and his documentary. When I watched it years ago, and I started Tony when I was 18, his work. And he has on his documentary, for people who haven't seen it, go to Netflix, I Am Not Your Guru. Fantastic documentary.
Yeah, I watched it recently again. Yeah.
Awesome. It was, I got some funny stories about that.
I was listening to an episode of his yesterday whilst I was driving. I was driving and I was listening to some stuff of his, and it's amazing how something that someone can say can pierce your soul, right?
Yeah. And he says something right at the end of the doco. It's like literally towards the credits of the documentary. It says, which parent did you crave love from the most? And for me, it was dad. It's who did you need to be for that parent? For me, it was an achiever. If I played well at sport, rugby league, I would get love and praise from my dad. So I learned if I achieve, I get love. And if I don't achieve, I'm not enough. So again, very unconscious to me back then, but that was that was my fuel source of choice back then. I'm not enough. I'm insecure. If I achieve, I'll be happy. But trying to fill an internal void with something external doesn't work. It's a mirage you just keep running towards and you never arrive at, right? So my breaking point, I share it actually in my book. It's the opening chapter. I had 3 gyms. I was spinning all the plates. I was super burnt out. My relationship was on the rocks. I was miserable. I was depressed. I was anxious, but I was just spinning these plates. But I look happy on Instagram. I look very successful on Instagram. Don't worry about that. I had 3 times gym owner at 22 on my Instagram bio. And I remember we got to a point, me and one of my business partners at one of the gyms, we were just conflicting. We weren't aligned with the business. We had different visions and whatever. We decided, let's just sell it. It's not worth it. Let's not ruin our friendship. Went through 12 months, due diligence, like lawyers, accountants, sale agreements, all this stuff. Finally sold it. And there was a cooling off period. 2 days before the cooling off period finished, I got a phone call from the buyer. And as soon as as soon as you see someone's name, like you feel it in your gut, you're like, this doesn't feel right. I remember that like literally I was yesterday. Answered the phone, and the person who answered it, I said, "Hey mate, what's going on?" He's like, "Mate, this business is fucking shit. It's not what you told us it was. We're pulling out of the deal." And this was like my get out jail free card. This was going to set me free from all the hamster wheel I built myself for. And I literally broke down in tears. I was like, and this was like at 5 a.m. in the morning because I'm about to go take classes at the gyms to keep them running. And I just broke down and I just couldn't. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to stop it all. I wanted to sell everything. I wanted to close it all up. And that was kind of the big wake-up call to, okay, this is not sustainable. And there's something playing out here for you to look into. And literally that day, called my business partner, the one that I owned it with. And I said, mate, I can't handle this. You take it. I own 50% of the business at the time. It was probably worth about 250 grand. I said, mate, just have it. I don't want it. I can't handle it. So just literally gave it away, spent 2 years building the thing up, busted my ass off to build it up. It was profitable. It was running without us. We had a team in there. I wasn't taking any classes there. So I was just running 2 of them. And I said, just take it. I can't handle it. And then from there, I was already doing self-development, like Tony Robbins, masterminds. I was in Kerwin Ray's mastermind, if you know who Kerwin was. He changed my life. Big raving fan of him. But I didn't really do the real deep inner trauma purpose aspects of things. I started to get into that stuff. And that kind of forced me into it. And then we went through COVID. So I had COVID with 2 gyms. That was hectic. Had to fire 90% of people on one day.
That would have been interesting. Yeah,
that was fun. Just so but go
yeah. So there's an incredible journey there, and there's so much there to unpack. I mean, let's circle back. You mentioned something before about desperation to inspiration, and so what does that mean?
The model I like the most is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're familiar, the triangle model. It's got down the bottom you've got survival needs like shelter, safety, food, water. Above that, I think it's procreation, like sex, connection, like basic levels of survival. So it's kind of survival needs are towards the bottom. And as you get towards the top, it's your self-actualization, purpose, meaning, contribution. So at the start, I love Alex Hormozi. I'm like Alex Hormozi and a Buddha put together. They're kind of my 2 archetypes put together. So I love the hustle, but I've obviously learned the fulfillment stuff. So like he says, use what you've got. First rule of entrepreneurship, use what you've got. If you've got the fuck you fuel of my dad and my mum weren't there for me and I'm going to use that to get started, use it. It's just very exhausting and it burns out. And again, it's a mirage you'll never arrive at. So at some point, once you've got fundamental needs met, once you got some food, you got some shelter, your bills are paid, you don't have to worry when your next meal is coming from. Hopefully people start to transition from desperation to inspiration. That's where inspiration in spirit, that's where you come back to your soul's values, your soul's purpose, because that's what fulfills you. The need for motivation is a symptom of an uninspired goal. If you need motivation to do anything, you're just not doing or seeing how what you're doing is going to fulfill your values and purpose to the highest degray. No one had to motivate me to be here today. I'm inspired to be here today. I get to do what I love.
I love that. Let's double click on that because, I often say to I suppose my team or different people that, we're sort of in this discussion about when someone's, having to rely on willpower, I'll always lean into the fact, well, the only reason that you need willpower or motivation is because you lack clarity. You lack clarity in order to identify why it is that you would want to do that thing anyway. And so let's sort of circle in on that a little bit. So, what you got some clarity. I guess you're going through this battle, right? And you've reached a point where there's a pivotal moment where things change. What was that moment?
Things change. John DeMartini is the first thing that comes up. So he's probably my biggest mentor who's shifted my way of viewing the world from a personal fulfillment and transformation aspect. I'd put him, Joe Dispenza, and Tony Robbins probably up there on the podium. So he for me taught me values, and then I built my purpose process off his model of values. So just discovering him, I actually found him through Kerwin. Kerwin did a podcast with him, and when someone just resonates with you, like, this is my person, you just jump.
It just it just lands, right? Yeah, it just lands.
One of his books is behind me. It's called The Values Factor, so it's about values. Another book, top book I've ever read on personal transformation, is called The Breakthrough Experience. You can't really see it, but it's behind me on that pile.
It's in light. I can see it. I've got that one as well.
Yeah. So he talks about perceptions, and trauma is a lopsided perception. So he probably made the biggest internal shift for me, and I found him through Kerwin. He did a podcast, and I was just memorized by it. And because I've got the autism, the Asperger's, the ADHD, like he's a bit of a quirky character. If anyone knows Dr. John DeMartini, I'm a DeMartini facilitator, so I'm a big fan of John. He's like my favorite mentor, but he's a weird character. He's a weird cat, but he's just himself, and I love it. And that's so I've got friends and actually ex-business partners and friends who are so repelled by him because he's just a bit of a weirdo that they miss out the magic that he has to offer. So I would say he was probably my answer to the self-discovery aspect of what are my values, what is my purpose, what's my mission and vision from my values and purpose. So that gave me clarity on who I am, where I'm going, what's meaningful to me. And that's where I've just been literally consistent towards this ever since. I've got a lot of friends that are like, you're like the most consistent person I know. It's like, I'm just doing what I want to do. What else would I be doing?
Interesting, isn't it?
This is what I'm inspired to do.
It's interesting, isn't it? When you have that extreme clarity and that purpose, I mean, and you're lit from within, I mean, the work is no longer work.
Yep.
And because, I actually heard that Tony was saying this yesterday on the podcast I was listening to, where he was talking about work, and one person will see it as pain. The other person will see it as more to do with, I guess, their purpose, and as it pulls them in a different way.
Yep.
And so, then you've been building these gyms. There's this pivotal moment where I guess you're getting clearer on what really is going to light you up. So then you go down this path, and you're, from what I understand, from what I can clearly see, right, you've gone through this journey of discovery. You're consuming everything that you can from people that inspire you. And you talked about the three, DeMartini, you talked about Dispenza, and obviously Tony Robbins. And then, here you are, right? There's this moment where I guess you somewhat arrive, and you're stepping up to the plate, you're evolving, you're shedding your skin, and that version of you that existed in the gym died. The gym owner that once existed and was thriving in his own way died. And now you're this new individual. So describe, I guess, who you become.
Well, mate, I like what you just said. That was magical. That sounded good. So an ego death is kind of what I just heard from that. It's love healing or transformation is learning to love all parts of who you are, and also coming back home to who you truly are. When we are born as babies or children, or I don't get too spiritual because I see some people go like your soul's karma and stuff. I don't go down that path necessarily. I kind of see truth through it, but I don't fully do that. But when a baby is born, a baby is absolutely worthy and perfect exactly the way they are. But then we learn that we're not, and we learn we have to be someone else to be enough by someone else's values or beliefs or projections. So it's like the Statue of David comes to mind. I use that a lot with my teaching. For anyone that isn't familiar with it, Michelangelo sculpted the Statue of David. And I actually have this in my book, and there's actually no historical record of him saying this ever. But apparently it's like well known these days.
But apparently he said it. Yeah.
Apparently he said it. He said, someone said, Michelangelo, how did you make such a great statue? And he said, it was easy. David was always in the statue. I just removed everything that wasn't him, or some version of that, supposedly. So 100%. So what you're saying is I have this persona of I have to be the achiever. I have to do this. I must, got to, ought to, should, whatever. And obviously that works until it doesn't, until you have the feedback from the universe to wake you up to who you truly are born to be. And you can just wait for life to sort of present you with those problems to have the catalyst, or you can obviously do some self-development, read from other people, stand on the shoulder of giants so you don't have to repeat the same lessons. But yeah, that's I think just becoming a bigger expression of who I am, which is knowing my values, which for me is coaching, relationships, health, wealth, friendships, and business, and then living that and expressing that to the greatest degree that I can. My purpose is to heal and raise consciousness. So if you look at the work that I do, it's around healing and consciousness, raising people's awareness so they're aware of what we're talking about, and then give them the practical tools to actually integrate and do the work. So yeah, that's kind of, shedding what you said it elegantly, mate. I don't think I can say it better than what you said. It's just removing the parts of you that aren't you to allow you to become the ultimate expression of who you truly are underneath.
I think, in many ways that is, we talk about purpose, right? And I remember reading Sapiens, and I think that book in particular was one that, I'll look back to, and it gives me some clues. We look at the evolutionary journey of the Homo sapien, the human, and I guess that is one of constant, change and shedding, and sort of what you've described is the evolution, right? It's the shedding of who you are not to become sort of, I guess, you're the greatest version of you. And that should be a pursuit that never stops. By definition, that journey, in fact, never stops. And you said something powerful there about awareness. And I sort of tie that back to what you said a little earlier, which is you can't change what you're not aware of, right? Yep. And so, when we become aware and we start to go down this path, and because, the reality is for people like, you and me, our journey all starts with personal development. It starts with the desire and the realization, actually, I am more. I'm more than this. And we want to actually expand our awareness. And we sort of go down this path. We start reading, we start listening, we start changing what we consume, that we start prioritizing, I suppose, our time, money, and energy into different things, and start sort of nurturing that future self. We start nurturing that future self and feeding that future self, right? So, the awareness bit, like, so how does someone recognize that this journey is beginning for them? Like, what would they be feeling, or like, is it unhappiness? Is it dissatisfaction? Is it depression? What are they experiencing that is kind of like a red flag, an alarm going off saying, you're not that version of you yet?
Yeah, mate, great question. Mate, I love your mind. Obviously, we haven't really spoken before, and I haven't consumed too much of your content, but mate, you speak really well. You speak really, really well.
Thank you.
So something you said, to zoom in on, is until you make the unconscious conscious, it controls your life and you call it fate. So Carl Jung said that really well. So until you make the unconscious conscious, it controls your life and you call it fate. You can't be held accountable to something you're not aware of. So back to where I was just sort of using the I'm not enough from dad fuel. Like, I was just doing the best I could in that time period. But now in hindsight, since I have more awareness, I've learned from other mentors, I've looked within, I've done plant medicine ceremonies, I do a ton of learning and meditation. And it's like, okay, I'm now aware of things I wasn't aware of, so now I can use them. So that's kind of leads into the answer of what you were saying. What would someone experience? You just become more in tuned to yourself. Like, I learned this from Kerwin, actually. It's like, so many people are stressed that their baseline is not actually neutral. It's like let's say say someone's absolutely neutral and grateful and present and grounded and so connected with their nervous system. So few people actually live that consistently. Their baseline is actually still dysregulated. It's just not as it's just become habituated to that sort of that zone. So you just become more sensitive to it. I love this quote: low self-worth is feedback you're not living to your values. That's the like, I've got testimonials of people who were depressed and suicidal who overcame it, got out of it. I'll use a perfect story. My brother, I love my brother, and he's such a beautiful case study for me because I've been like coaching him on the side for a couple of years now, and he's a year and a half above me. So I started my journey when I was 18 with Tony Robbins. I say Tony Robbins is the gateway drug to self-actualization. He like gets you into the change your state, make you move, but then it's like we generally can go beyond that if you choose to. And it took him like 6 years to listen to me. And transparently, him and his mates used to give me shit for being Mr. Motivation and chasing goals, and like they'll throw stones at me, which hurt as a brother back then, but obviously worked through that. And my brother, he was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. He attempted suicide 3 times. He left a death note. And I remember the day he left that death note, he drove his car into a wall. I remember that quite vividly. And then eventually he started to open up and be open to like the inner work and the stuff that I'm into after about 6 years of me doing it. And so I helped him. We did values, we did purpose, we did my balancing process, which is my trauma process. We did belief work and helped him get clear on his path. And I've got stories about his purpose path if you go down that path as well. But to go back to this, I called him. It was a Monday and I just gave him a phone call and he didn't answer the phone. And I'm like, that's all good. You'll call me back. Doesn't call back on Tuesday. He doesn't call back on Wednesday. He calls me back on a Thursday. And I'm like, hey, mate, what's going on? He's like, to be honest with you, I went back to old habits and I got really depressed and I actually got suicidal again. I said, thank you for being vulnerable with me and being open with me. How do you feel now? How are you right now? He's like, I remember what you said. And it was, in his words, it was like, when you're not living to your values, you feel shit. That was kind of his words. And I remember you said that. And then I pulled up my values and I saw I wasn't doing any of them. And so I started doing them yesterday and I feel great today. I'm like, that's fucking simple. It sounds so simple. People like dismiss it. If you feel shit, you're not living to your values or you're not clear that you are. Because most people think values are things like loyalty.
Is that a bit of how do we label that? That's the cognitive dissonance to a degree?
To a degree.
Where our...
Keep going.
Yeah, it's kind of like where we know that, for example, our values are such, but we're behaving in different ways and not living up to that. So that creates that internal conflict, which may then express as what you're saying is that those kinds of feelings, those disruptive emotions, the lack of self-worth, the low self-esteem, the depression, that kind of stuff. So he recognized, and what you said there just reminded me of something I saw Tony Robbins do at an event where he was confronting this. Well, he was talking to a guy, which I may have been in that I'm Not Your Guru documentary, where the guy's talking about the fact that he hates himself and he's suicidal, and he asked him, well, how do you feel right now? Yeah. It was something that, and he confronted him around that and got him to recognize, well, actually, hang on a second, I get to choose. Like, it was in that moment, you could see the light bulb go off. So tell me about that. What happened with your brother then from that point?
From then, that was 2 years ago. And he'd only just like started the journey about 12 months beforehand. So he's been kind of into the self-growth path for about 3 years now. Since then, like, I haven't had a conversation with him about going back there, or he hasn't told me about it anyways. But he now literally comes to our events, our 1-day events, our 3-day events. He helps crew. He actually crewed at the last one. He's done like trauma work, integration work. He's now starting to help parents. So we got clear on his purpose, his values, what he wants to do for the world. And now he's still transitioning. He's still learning like the acquisition and sales and marketing stuff. That's like his current bottleneck that he's trying to figure out. But he's now on path to do what he loves. His purpose is around helping parents and helping dads be conscious dads, because that was his big core wound. And yeah, that's kind of the path we're on now.
Let's take a quick pause now. If you're watching or listening right now, it tells me something about you. Like, you want more out of life, more time and more freedom, and possibly even more control over where you live and how you actually earn. But most people never actually take the leap. That's the crazy thing. They stay stuck in routines that drain them, clocking in, clocking out, trading hours for what I would describe as pure survival. Now, you weren't built for that. You were built for so much more, for what I would describe as freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you work from anywhere, live on your terms, and actually enjoy what you do. And that's exactly why I built the Freedom Academy. It's a system that teaches you the one high income skill that gives you all three. Remote high ticket sales is exactly that skill. It's the ability to earn 10 to 30K a month in commissions working from anywhere in the globe, using nothing but your laptop or your voice. So if you're done with living on someone else's schedule and you're sick and tired of the 9 to 5, go to the link in the show notes and apply today, because freedom isn't found, it's actually built. All right, let's get back to the show. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it's you helped him identify, I guess, his greatest purpose and what lights him up. In other words, his North Star. And by doing that, then it was easy for him to align and find meaning in the mundane, because it's in the mundane that we live. We live in the ordinary. We live in the day to day. And I think what a lot of people struggle with, and Hormozi talks about this, quite bluntly, with regard to entrepreneurship. We want the awards and we want that dopamine and that big hit when we stand on the stage, we receive that award with Russell Brunson or whatever it is, and it's $100 million thing. But that moment is a sort of small representation of the countless hours that you were in the mundane, doing the ugly, doing the work, but you were driven by purpose. So it sounds like, I guess then, you were giving us an example of, sort of circling back where I said, what would someone be experiencing that would be an alarm? And you gave us an example at your brother. Your brother was in a very difficult situation. I mean, the worst of the worst, right? Where, we get to a point where we feel like the only viable option is to call call it quits, right? And so you helped him realign. And it sounds like through that process of, which is a lot more complex, but I'm going to simplify it, for the simpletons like me, like you sort of really helped him align to fundamentally a vision and a mission and I guess gave him a purpose, something to live for. Because it's easy to die in a sense, right? When you have nothing to live for, I'm hearing. Yeah, and so you helped. So is that fundamentally, I guess, then what is the approach? So someone's feeling, for example, out of alignment and there's these, you sort of mentioned earlier as well, right? There's the, I suppose how you labeled it was a little different, but it was kind of like what happens in your head. For example, I talk about, for example, the thought, the garden of the mind, right? And then there's the emotion, which you then talked about the body. So what's going on in the body and you talked about a top up, top down sort of approach, which is very advanced, right? So what, for someone listening going, well, that's kind of what I feel. What do they feel that should be a sign that, okay, you're off?
Yeah, I've got 2 pillars or 2 frameworks, and then I'll tie them together for you. So, feelings of feedback, first and foremost. Feelings of feedback. They are feedback based on certain things, and then I'll tell you the framework, and then I'll piece them together. So, it's actually a very famous or well-known business framework. It's the theory of constraints, and I learned that through Hormozi.
He talks about constraints all the time.
It's a business grows to its lowest constraint. So, for people listening, say your business, say your marketing is a 10 out of 10, your sales is a 10 out of 10, but your products are 1 out of 10. The product's the constraint. And a lot of people in that exact situation actually just try market more. It's like, no, your product's shit, fix the product. Make the service better, the product better. If you did that, the business grows and then something else breaks. So you're just constantly finding the constraint, addressing the constraint, and then you go to the next one. Human beings are the same. Humans grow to their lowest constraint. And it will be one of those 3 things I mentioned earlier with my model. It will be either they're not being themselves, they're trying to live to someone else's values, or projections on who that. So, good lesson. Whenever you hear the words you have to, ought to, got to, should, must, supposed to, or some version of those words, someone external or something is projecting their values or beliefs onto someone else. And if you listen to it, you'll beat yourself up because you have this inner compass that is constantly trying to keep you authentic and aligned with what it is or who you truly are. It's that little voice when someone says, hey, do you want to do this? And you don't want to, but you say it because you don't value yourself or you got some trauma you haven't addressed yet or blah, 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 blah. That little voice is there. It's when you have inspiration, biggest little tip for people as well. When you get a tear of inspiration, you are perceiving a part of your purpose. So whenever you get tears of your eye, I'm so inspired right now. I'm so fulfilled right now. I feel alive right now. You're doing or perceiving a part of your purpose. So that's a hot tip. So I'll put that together. So if someone is feeling off, I would say, okay, let's go through. And in my head, I will go through essentially my model to see what it is. Okay. Are you prioritizing your values? No, let's start there. That will honestly take care of a lot of people. Bang right there. Great. Okay, your values are taken care of. Okay, what next? Are you clear on your purpose and where you're heading in life? No, I'm not. Okay, let's do your purpose. I have a purpose process. Let's find your purpose. Great. Now you've got a mission. We use the purpose to make a mission. We use your values to create the vision. Awesome. Now you know who you are. You know where you're going. Great. Do you have a plan to get there? Because maybe, I'm overwhelmed because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Okay. Do you have a plan? Do you have the skills? Are you lacking skills? Okay. No, I don't. Go get a mentor. ChatGPT. Google something. Figure out the skill. Okay, you got a plan of where to go now. Fantastic. Now what? Oh, I'm super triggered. I'm super dysregulated. I'm super anxious. Great. That's probably a belief or a perception. So that's what's causing that. What's the belief underlying that? What's the trauma underlying that's causing that? So I'm just looking. Actually, I'll use this quote. To the degree you resist reality is the degree that you suffer. To the degree you resist reality is the degree that you suffer. So any resistance outside of real survival, if a tiger rolls into your office or my office right now, you and me are not going to be super great.
We're running.
We're going to either fight the thing or I'll probably jump out my window. I'm a flight person, so I'll jump out the window. But that's survival resistance. So outside of real survival, Peter Crone has a great quote. He says, if it's not life-threatening, it's just ego-threatening. So if you have resistance, I feel anxious, I feel guilt, I feel shame, I feel overwhelmed, I feel unworthy, it's a projection of your conditioning, which is a belief or a perception. So then we just need to find what that is, address that with the process, and then the resistance goes away. So I'm constantly helping someone find what's causing their resistance. That's kind of what I do in a nutshell. It's, okay, are you being yourself? No, let's start with that. Do you know where you're going? No, let's take care of that. Do you have a plan and you've got clarity? You're not overwhelmed? Okay, you got that sorted. Awesome. What beliefs are you repeating to yourself? I'm not enough. I'm blah, 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 blah. Or what projection of your perception, which is trauma, what is coming up for you? And then we address that. And then resistance goes away. Then you grow to the next one. And then that's growth right there.
And, I guess when I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, as I'm sure you do, right? And I would say that, it's consistently clear to me that the thing that, keeps or puts a lid on our, I suppose, the heights that we rise to in our life is the words that are filtering through that then are triggering our emotions and then how we show up. And then it's triggering then the level of action that we're willing to take, which then leads to the results, right? So there's the constant proof to me when I have conversations with people that are excelling, they do different things because they feel different, and because they feel different, it's because what they're focusing on, it's what they're saying to themselves, it's the internal language that, they're my approach, and I call it the freedom formula, is much simpler, more simplified, I suppose, than how you've articulated. But I guess it's, if you control the garden of your mind, in other words, what you consume, what you focus on amplifies. And so, if you spend your time feeding on things that build fear, scarcity, and doubt and lack, and are all about the doom and gloom, well, then it's very hard to resist the next thing, which is the emotional state of that. And because we feel a certain way, then a confirmation bias kicks in, and we start to look for evidence that supports how I actually feel about it right now. So it confirms that, it locks it in, ingrains it. And because of that, then I'm fearful, and therefore I don't take any action. I don't take any risk. I don't do anything about my situation. And then it becomes a situation where, it's about whether or not we have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. It's like, this is just what it is then. This is my lot in life. I can't change, and the circumstances are what they are, and therefore I'm subject to them. I can't change them. And so I yield to them. And when I yield to them, I give up. And when I give up, then I accept my lot in life. When I accept my lot in life, well, then I'm fucked, right? Yeah. Because it is what it is. But it's consistent, right? When I look at people that are exceptional, the 1%, it's interesting. A book that could cost you $30, in fact, its value, when you consider that the books that you've read and the journey you went on, what you picked up and what you chose to consume, is priceless because of how it shaped the way you see. Tony Robbins says there is the thing, the event, and then there is your reality, the filter. And you get to choose the meaning behind the event, right? And so by you consuming, by you reading, by you going down this path, you've changed your filter, you've changed your world, you're in a different, you are a different human, you've shed your skin, you're growing out of the self that you were, you're moving into your future you're taking different action, you're running a different business, you're able to help people like your brother and many others I can imagine doing, in a terrible situation, to reframe their life and to find meaning and purpose and to start to then, that to compound and start to have an effect on others, right? But that all started way back when you chose to change, because it's a decision, right?
Yeah.
It's a decision.
Is there a question in there?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just curious how you see it, because it's, I look at it and it's so simple, because I remember back in, many years ago, and I'll give you an example, right? So in my 30s, and we all go through traumatic events. And most people by the time they're in their later 30s have been through either a divorce, maybe 2 or 3 significant deaths at that point as well. They've probably changed jobs possibly 2 times, or careers, lots of trauma, maybe experienced COVID or whatever it is. And at this point in my early 30s, I'd gone through a divorce and it was traumatic. There was a lot going on. And, I certainly wasn't the person I am today back then, right? And so I'm definitely a contributor to that situation. But I remember that you're going to laugh at this when you hear this, because I'm not sure if you know about my background, but I started in the gym, right? And I was a very successful personal trainer in the Sydney CBD, running a good business. But going through this situation, I've lost control of so many things in my life. But there was one thing I could control at that point in time. And you know what it was? It was a white line. It was a white line. So there was a dumbbell rack, and it was a huge dumbbell rack in a big corporate gym. And we had established a law, and that law was that you could not train beyond the white line because it was disruptive and it was difficult to get around. It was actually, somewhat dangerous. And so I was a staunch, I suppose, policeman in a sense of the white line. And when I look back at that, just from what you've shared, and I guess just on reflection, like it was the only thing in my life at that point that I could control. I hadn't evolved into my future self. I didn't understand what was going on in my life. I hadn't dealt with the trauma. I hadn't, I suppose, gone through the healing that needed in that time. And I hadn't at that point decided that I needed to die and I needed to evolve. And I was stuck in this moment that I was only controlling what I could control, which was the white line. And I remember being angry, being viscerally moved, by someone training inside the white line. And so it shows up in different ways, right? It shows up in road rage. It shows up in your relationships. It shows up in, our abuse of alcohol, drugs, and different things. But from your perspective, how does it show up?
How does what show up? I've got a couple thoughts.
I guess how does it show up when, we reach that point where it's kind of like we recognize shit, something needs to change.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, that makes sense. So there's a similar thing. You can't be held accountable to what you're not aware of. So a lot of people that do, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you for sticking around for 45 minutes to listen to my voice. So I appreciate you being here. And if you're listening to this type of content, you have done some work. You wouldn't just randomly listen to a 45-minute podcast out of nowhere. So you've probably done some books, some Tony Robbins, some self-development. But there's a I call it the cosmic joke stage. I don't have a better name for it for now, but it's for people who start doing work where you're conscious enough that it's you. You've done some NLP, you've done some Tony Robbins, you've done some books, some masterminds, some courses, whatever. Done some plant medicine maybe. But if you don't then recognize the perception underneath it, that's an area a lot of people do not touch. Because you may have beliefs. I'll use Tony Robbins as an example. I went there when I was 18, did UPW, did the fire walk. I did his Dickens process, where essentially you remove a limiting belief. Belief works until it doesn't. Let's use an example. I was going to do a little exercise with you just to prove this. So can I ask you some vulnerable questions, Shane?
Yeah.
Now, listeners do this because this is really good. And please, for the listeners and for you, Shane, remove judgment from your answers. Even if you love this person or these people, I'm going to ask you questions about your parents. Now, even if they're passed away, even if you love them more than anything, even whatever the circumstances, just answer it authentically. Some people I did a podcast the other day and the host didn't really like me asking the questions. Yeah. So anyways, ego. Well done. Well said. So don't judge your answers for the guys listening. So you're going to use a one-word answer for me. It's going to be a trait, a behavior, or a label. Okay. In a one-word answer, think of dad. In a one-word answer, what is the one thing you dislike most about dad?
Geez, that's tough, isn't it?
Of course.
Removed.
Removed. Beautiful. Answer that 2 more times if you can. So removed is 1. Give me 2 more. And listeners, do the same thing. Think of 3 one-word answers. It'll be traits, behaviors, or labels, or parts of this person that you dislike.
Lost.
Lost. Beautiful. And do 1 more.
Fearful.
Beautiful. Now, do the same thing for mum. So think of mum in a one-word answer. What's the one thing you dislike most about mum?
Delusional.
Delusional. Beautiful. Answer that 2 more times.
Enabling.
Enabling. Beautiful. And do 1 more.
Unbalanced.
Beautiful. Perfect. So, and you can do this for anyone, guys. You can do it for ex-partners, current partners, siblings, bosses, anyone that you have fuck yous towards. Do the same thing. These are, quote, wounds or traumas of yours. These are things you have a lopsided perception towards that you perceive to be bad. So think of your words, guys, and you'll have some light bulbs. When someone does these things or you perceive or project people are doing these things, you get triggered by it. Or you have resistance to it. Remember that quote? To the degree you resist reality is the degree that you suffer. So when someone is removed, lost, fearful, delusional, is enabling, or is unbalanced, you don't like it. You'll have resistance to them, and you'll often get triggered into a pattern. This is trauma responses. So the thing is, people do limiting beliefs. So you'll have beliefs because of this. So for example, you have one around enabling. You probably have some beliefs around, I shouldn't enable people. I shouldn't be doing this. I can't be doing this. They're your beliefs. If we do some NLP and do some belief work, which takes seconds, you can remove beliefs in seconds when you know how to do it. Say I remove those beliefs, but you haven't rebalanced or neutralized your perception towards enabling, you'll still get triggered by it. So the cosmic joke stage is where you've done some work, but you keep fucking repeating the patterns. It's frustrating because you're like, I know it's me. I'm the creator of my reality. I'm the creator of my identity, but you keep doing it. It's very frustrating that stage where a lot of people just don't do the emotional perception work. That's where I focus. That's my sort of jam. That's my favorite part. So I would encourage the people listening, do a balancing process on these traits. I have a version of it in my book. I have it on my services if you want to do it somewhere. Because until you do, you keep attracting this shit into your life.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, the depression, the issue, I guess, in society, I'm not sure whether it's bigger now than it ever was, but it seems that we hear about it so much more, anxiety. The issue that males in particular, it seems, struggle with regard to, you know, suicide and all that. How does someone then, what would be a process, a step 1, step 2, step 3, that someone that I guess is, you know, is now recognizing, well, look, I'm out of alignment. There's stuff that isn't right. There's obviously work I need to do. There's some limiting beliefs that need to be removed. If there was a step 1, step 2, step 3, like what would that look like?
Step 1, give yourself some grace. You're doing the best of what you have. So first, you are doing the absolute best with everything you have. Give yourself some fucking grace. A good lesson to understand this. I'm getting ready for parenthood. We got our first baby due in March next year. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Very excited for the triggers that are on the way and the gift and growth. So we're doing a lot of parenting books and reading and research and getting prepared. And I only learned this recently, is babies until the age of 4 to 7 cannot emotionally regulate themselves. They don't have the faculties to regulate themselves. So imagine a 2-year-old is crying and you go up to the 2-year-old and say, shut up, stop crying, stop being emotional. You're asking them to do something they cannot do.
They cannot physically do.
They can't do it. It's like you're asking them to do, it's like say, make me some eggs and you don't have any eggs. It's like you just don't have the faculties to do the thing. So for the person who's anxious, you're overwhelmed, you're beating yourself up, you're shaming yourself, you're doing the best with what you have. Take a breath, relax the shoulders, relax the jaw, give yourself some grace would be my first step. Step 2 would be to find someone to help you, whether that's a book, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friendship circle, a community, because again, you're doing the best of what you have. And if you're not having the result or the experience or the emotions, whatever the thing is that you want, you're just missing something. So just go learn from someone. That's where mentorship is fantastic. It's like turn decades into days, modeling from Tony. It's like just go learn from someone who's been doing it for decades or years. I have a 3-step framework for who I would the filters I look for when I look to work with a mentor, because I've got like 4 mentors at the moment. I love to keep growing and healing, invest into myself. 3 filters. Number 1, do you like this person's energy? Do you feel safe to some degree? Now, when it comes to healing work, it does require courage, because you could say, I don't feel safe with anyone. So, but do you like this person's energy? Do you resonate with this person? Now, if you don't, you might be projected onto them. So look for your trauma, but that's a conversation for later. Second is, does this person embody the work they talk about? Because anyone can study some fucking ChatGPT prompt and repeat it, but do they do and embody and live to that stuff? It's kind of like the unhealthy personal trainer, the broke accountant, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
and third,
couldn't agree more.
do they have proven results for others? Because helping yourself and helping others is a different skill set. Some guys or ladies are super fit and jacked with their health, but they couldn't articulate how to coach something or how to cue something. They just don't have that skill set, which is okay. So step 2 is to find someone to help you. And they're the 3 steps I recommend looking for when looking for someone to work with. Do you like their energy? Do they embody it? And do they have proven results? Step 3 on what I would recommend for the person, just keep going until you get the result. It's the theory of constraints. Just keep going until you have the breakthrough. Like Hormozi, again, you're building a bridge where you are to where you want to be. every skill, every podcast, every process you do, everything you learn is just another piece to your bridge. You might have 60 pieces right now, but you need 100. You're like, oh, I've done the work, but I keep repeating it. You're just missing something. Like in the business world, it's like, I know how to market, I know how to sell, I know how to do this, but I don't know how to recruit people. I don't know how to build a good culture. It's like you're missing a skill set. Just keep going.
It's just a skill
and acquire your skills. Just keep building those skills would be my third tip.
So Kerwin was an influence on you, and you said that he was someone that I guess was a bit of a shining light for you. And for those that don't know, Kerwin's no longer with us.
Yeah.
The circumstances around that, I guess are troubling. If you sort of understand, just from what we know. If I didn't personally know him, but I was definitely someone who followed his work, and I was an admirer of his passion, his professionalism, his consistency over years, the stuff that he taught. I did go to events where, of course, it was his event, and I was there, obviously as part of my journey growing into entrepreneurship and stuff. And so, I mean, did you actually work with him and his team, or you worked at his organization for a period of time?
No, I joined his mastermind. So I did his...
You were part of his mastermind?
Yeah. So I did his one-day events, like when he travels around the Australian tours. I went to NISI, Nail It and Scale It, which is like his 4-day boot camp. And then I joined his K2 Elite, which is his 12-month mastermind. I was there for 2.5 years. And he changed my life. Like the moment I found out, I heard the news he passed, I started crying. Like it was such a big, he helped me. He opened my eyes the most to the spiritual healing world rather than the hustle, just fucking make money, which he was good at too. He kind of did both. Like he introduced me to crystals and frequencies and plant medicines and healing and DeMartini and Peter Crone. He introduced me to like the other side, because I was like that sort of, closed off, like super sciencey, like fuck the woo-woo crystal stuff, like show me the science behind it, blah blah blah. But because he was he had the financial goals, like he actually had the proof that he was good at what he does from a achievement aspect. I was more open to it, and then he opened my eyes a little bit more, and that's when I went down like the energy healing, the Reiki healing, the spiritual stuff, the ayahuascas. So I remember at his event, this is like my first. I just signed up to K2, and it was like my first event, and he has like Q&A around the tables, and there's like, I'm like 22 in this room, and I'm like very young. Like the average age is like 50 or 40 in there. And they do like Q&A. I remember one of my first questions was, mate, I've heard about like psychedelics. Can you tell me your experience? And like the whole crowd starts like laughing their ass off. And he gave us a really beautiful experience about his journey with plant medicines, with EMDA therapy, MDMA therapy, I should say. But yeah, he changed my life. On my presentation, I run a 1-day event now into a 3-day event. On my 1-day event, I have a photo of me and him on stage. So I got into his leadership program, and you take a photo with him on stage. So he was on my podcast. So I used to do guests on my podcast. I haven't done a guest in like a year because I just can't be bothered at the moment. But I've got an episode with him on there. So yeah, I've got so much love for Kerwin. He changed my life, and I wouldn't be who I am today without him.
What do you feel? I mean, it would be hard to sort of narrow it down. I mean, just from your perspective, I mean, what led to some of the challenges that he had that led to what happened?
I don't know. It was hard for me to process because he'd done
for
the
so
work.
many of us. Yeah, for so many of us. I was in shock. I remember, hearing the news and being in disbelief. I had a friend of mine who, an entrepreneur and someone who follows his work very closely, messaged me actually in tears, going like, fuck, did you just hear what happened? And I was in disbelief thinking, how is this even possible? Like if this is what happens to him, what chance does anyone else have? In a sense, like in my mind, that was my first thought.
Yeah. It was hard to process. I can feel some emotions coming up as I answer the question. It was hard to this day, I still haven't answered this part, is for someone who had the tools and access to the tools. That's the part I can't comprehend. Is he introduced me to DeMartini. So he'd done all the breakthrough experiences and the perception work and the plant medicines, the psychedelics. He'd done the somatic work, the energy work, the talk work. Like he'd done like the military work, like where he'd done like the other extreme, like just become hard and focused. And he'd just done so much. It was hard. To this day, I just like, I can't, I don't, I would love to know because I love him and I wish I could help him. I could have helped him. it was hard to process because I to this day can't understand with someone who did have the tools from what I knew. Maybe he's obviously was missing something was going on. It's like, because again, what I was saying before, you can't be held accountable to something you're not aware of. So that's why when I work with clients, I start with grace, because I need to see, once you have awareness, then I can be a dick to you and be like, you know this now. It's like with great power comes great responsibility. So now you understand that your triggers are you. Now it's on to you to work on it. So that was the part that to this day I don't have an answer to it. I can't comprehend how he had so much beautiful gifts and awareness, and he'd made such an incredible impact, and he had the resources to end up the way he was. That for me, I still don't have an answer to it.
Yeah. And it's such a huge gaping hole now, I guess, in not just the Australian market, I would say in the global market, I guess in a sense of, in the personal development space, in that entrepreneurial coaching realm. So many people that, are out there looking for a leader, someone to guide us, someone to help us break through, someone to give us the direction that we need, right? And it's really difficult to understand. I'm not sure that we will ever, I suppose, have an answer to that. I guess, in my mind, I suppose you never understand really the demons that someone is dealing with, and perhaps, how that's expressing itself and to what degree. Everyone's life behind the curtains is a little different too. And you've got, relationship dynamics, you've got your own personal dynamics, with your relationship with yourself. And then there's the external relationships that we have that are meaningful to us and that, of course, can impact our day to day. And then we've got our work and the things that we do, in the day to day. And then we've got the relationship that we have with the world around us, and then you've got those things right now, just chaotic, all over the place. So it's our ability to, I suppose, bring all that into context and give it space, I guess. But so I love what you do, man. It's so rare to speak to someone that has, you talked about, awareness, that has your awareness. It is extremely rare. And that's a beautiful thing, right?
Thank you.
And in many cases, like, this is going to go over the head of so many people. But I want to acknowledge what you said earlier, and you're right. You sort of said at about minute 45 of this conversation, if you're still here, you're someone that's already done some work. You're opening up, like you're evolving, and you're getting to this point, right? And so how would you describe then, what do you stand for, and what do you fight against?
Great question. Been leaning into this very conversation for my brand, actually. So what do you stand for? What do you stand against? So a couple of things is labels are limitations. That's a big one for me. You are depressed. You have anxiety. You are a narcissist. You have ADHD. So you have these problems, because it's the sweet spot of how do you recognize people have some patterns without giving them a label that limits them. So
that is definitive.
That's definitive.
Definitive. Yes.
Because it creates the box you then reinforce, because whatever beliefs you make true, that's the reticular activating system playing out. So that's one of the bigger ones, because I got diagnosed with Asperger's, autism, ADHD, and anxiety. So because I believed it, I make them true. Now, are there truths to it? Yes. I'm a bit of a quirky character. I think differently. I don't understand humor very well. So when people, I'm hard to get to laugh. You get me to laugh, you've done well. But a gift of that, I love this. For every disability, there's a heightened ability. So I'm not very good with humor. So I've done this many times before, and I need to learn to turn it off sometimes and just not say anything. But I was at like a family get together. I think we were playing a Monopoly Deal. It's a great game if you haven't played, mate. It's a great game. And we're playing the game. It's a card game. And my brother's friend was there, and I've known him since like primary school, known him for years. And he was just out of nowhere made this really self-depreciating joke about himself. Like, I'm just this fat, disgusting person or something. And they started laughing. I didn't laugh. I was like, and because I saw Pat, and I said, do you know you tear yourself down to connect with others? I just said it straight to him during the card game. You can't,
isn't that powerful?
But that's the gift of Asperger's. I didn't laugh. I'm like, I can see there's truth there. So it's like, where's the truth to the joke? Whatever you joke about, there's some truth to it very often. So
very often.
So again, labels become limitations would be one. I think the education system is broken. It does not fit the world that we live in. It doesn't. doesn't encourage people to discover their gifts and know how to give your gift to the world. Your purpose is an expression of your greatest core wounds, and your purpose is your greatest gift to give to the world. So when you can figure out what that is, and I can help you with that, I've got a free process on YouTube. If you just do Lewis Huxtay purpose, the purpose process is there. It takes about 30 minutes to do it. It's like, know your purpose, go give it to the world and get paid to do it. Like, we don't get taught that. We get taught, here are your pathways to do based on an outdated fucking system. And we don't get taught emotional intelligence. We don't get taught how to heal. We don't get taught any of that shit. You get taught fucking Romeo and Juliet. How the fuck has that served me to this day? So I think the education system is shit. I think traditional, now I'm going to disclaimer this part because there are great therapists that do a great job. But there is, I've got hundreds of testimonials of people that have done therapy for 10, 20, 30, 45 years is the longest one I've seen for my clients, who did talk therapy and never healed the root cause because they're just addressing symptoms. So fuck the symptom. I'll tell you a great business model. I'll always almost solve your problem. Great fucking business model. You've got a symptom.
Business model. You keep coming back.
Yeah, you keep coming back. That's talk therapy and pharmaceuticals to a large degree. Now, are there some good therapists out there? Yes, that do both. I have a lot of clients that come to me who have done it for, I had a client literally 2 days ago. So I did a private client. I don't do many private clients, but for the right person, I will. And we did my balancing process, which is my trauma process. And this guy's in business. He's doing well. He's great dude. And we did it on abandonment. So I start with parents. Which parent do you dislike most? His was dad. I said, what do you dislike most about him? Abandonment. Great. Close your eyes. Go to the moment he abandoned you. What moment comes up? Went to the moment, did my balancing process. Took about 90 minutes. And by the end of it, heart was open. Tears were flowing of gratitude. He was experiencing enlightenment because he recognized the divine order of oneness and wholeness that played out. And he's like, bro, I've spent 20 years trying to crack this and you did this in an hour. I said, thank you. I just know how to address the root fucking cause. So I'm very passionate about not addressing the root cause. Because again, you've got a customer for life. My goal as a coach is you don't need me long-term. I want to give you, I don't want to fish for you. I want to teach you how to fish. I want to give you the awareness and the tools to work on yourself without needing me. Then if you want to go deeper and I can challenge you more, then continue working with me. Yeah, there's some of my things. I haven't thought too much about it, but there's some of
them. And I guess then to wrap this up, right? So our days are numbered on this earth, and so every moment, we're working away, we're toiling away, and it's for a reason, right? And obviously, there are different things that drive us, and obviously, there's it's clear that you're driven by purpose. So, what do you want to be remembered for?
Someone who made the world a better place, as cliche as that is. Someone who gave his best in the mission that he was on, to get uncomfortable, show the parts of me that I'm working through, to be vulnerable. Like I share the trauma I'm still working on at my events to show like what triggers have come up, what arguments have come up, what things have come up. Yeah, I think I haven't really been asked the question in that way, but someone who was true to himself and lived his purpose and gave his best to the world would be my answer.
And that fundamentally is powerful, right? So this is definitely going to pique the interest of a percentage of listeners and this was going to be a pivotal conversation. I knew the minute we jumped on and we opened our respective, Zooms or whatever it is, and we started talking, I'm like, this is going to be a pivotal conversation for a lot of individuals. There's certain conversations that are filled with hype, cliche words, the motivational spins and things that light people up for a moment in time. But there's certain things, it's mental masturbation, isn't it? And then there's those conversations that don't have that same glitter in a sense, but they're designed for true change and longevity and impact. And I knew this was going to be a pivotal conversation. There's going to be some people that legitimately are awakened through some of the things, but are left with a lot of questions, right? Because of course, this is a journey, right, that we all undertake. And you just, mentioned yourself that you're open about your own, I suppose, journey and struggles and so forth. And we're all sort of, on that. Where would they go to find you and to follow you and to be able to continue to study and to get this type of support and coaching and mentorship? Where could they go to follow you?
Thank you, mate. I just want to say thank you for the conversation. I love people that can pitch and catch. So they don't just like read off a script of questions. They chime in and they've got things to challenge me and to add upon what I say. So thank you, mate. The answer would be social media. Instagram's probably where I'm most active. Lewis Huckstep is where to get it. I do have a website. It's pretty average, to be honest. It needs a fresh update. I haven't updated in like 2 years. So you can go there. It's functional, but don't judge me too much there. I've got a book. It's called The Inspired Life Method. You can start there if you want to. And the best way to actually work directly with me and actually get my frameworks and processes and modalities to do the work and to do all the things we've been speaking about. I've got a school community, Hormozy again. I've got a school community. You get a free 7-day experience. You get a one-on-one call with me. I had 5 of those today. And you get instant access to everything. So come try it out for free and see if you like it.
Powerful. Well, thank you so much, Lewis. My absolute pleasure to have you on. And no doubt, I guess we're going to have some comments coming through on the pod, on YouTube and whatever else, and be great. So if you've listened to this and I guess this has awakened you a little bit and there's something that stood out for you and there was some sort of light bulb moment, whatever it was, or something you feel it could be pivotal for you, comment, let us know in the show notes, in the comments, and we'll personally reply. And we'd love to know what it is that, you took away from this and what was some of the key moments. And I love challenging people on that, like don't sit in silence. Life is not about being a spectator. It's about being a contributor. Get yourself in the front seat, ask questions, and you're going to get answers. It's kind of like the kid that Lewis once was at Kerwin's event. The youngest in the room, he stood up and he asked a question, and that is the type of human that evolves, the one that's willing to ask questions, be curious and go there. Right. So if you've heard this and you're interested, then most definitely go follow Lewis and comment on this show. Let us know what you've taken away, and we would love to hear it. So once again, thanks, Lewis, for coming on the Freedom Formula podcast. No doubt, in some way, shape, or form, our paths will cross again, and we'll share the message, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.